10 boundaries men set that turn women on. Most men will never learn how boundaries create attraction instead of distance. They'll keep overgiving and wondering why interest fades. These 10 boundaries flip that pattern. And the final one explains the emotional standard women adapt to when they want a man. 10. You refuse to narrate your intentions in real time. Most men explain what they're doing while they're doing it. I just wanted to text you because I didn't mean it like that. What I was trying to say was, this is verbal leakage. It shows that your internal world is open for inspection and negotiation. When you stop narrating your intentions, something changes. She no longer gets a running commentary of your motives. She has to feel you instead of analyze you. Psychologically, this creates what's called interpretive tension. Her brain stays engaged because it doesn't have full access. This isn't being vague, it's being self-contained. You don't hide your interest, but you don't over-clarify it either. The boundary is between your actions and your explanations. You act cleanly, then let the silence do the framing. Women experience this as emotional depth and confidence because you're not seeking permission for your own intent. 9. You set a boundary around emotional labor, not time or sex. Most advice tells men to limit time or sexual access. That's obvious and widely used. The rarer boundary is emotional labor. Emotional labor is when you manage someone else's feelings for them, soothing, over-validating, constantly reassuring. When you stop doing this, you don't become cold. You become grounded. If she's anxious, you don't rush to fix it. If she's upset, you don't perform emotional gymnastics to stabilize her mood. You stay present without becoming responsible for her internal state. This signals psychological autonomy. It tells her, I can sit with emotion without being swallowed by it. That's deeply attractive because it mirrors how authority works at a nervous system level. She feels held without being handled. The boundary isn't distance, it's non-absorption, and women interpret that as strength. 8. You limit access to your internal reactions. When something surprises you, annoys you, or flatters you, you don't instantly broadcast it. Most men show their full internal response immediately. Laughter, irritation, approval, disapproval. That makes them predictable. Predictability kills intrigue. Limiting access to your reactions doesn't mean suppressing emotion. It means metabolizing it first. You pause before responding. You let your face stay neutral a second longer. This creates a micro-delay that communicates self-regulation. From a psychological perspective, delayed reaction signals higher status because your nervous system isn't being yanked by the environment. She feels that and adjusts her behavior around it. Not because she's intimidated, but because her brain registers you as stable. Stability plus mystery equals sexual trust. If you're serious about leading interactions instead of chasing them, comment steady. Let's see who's steady when others get emotional. 7. You don't rescue awkward moments. Silence, miscommunication, or social friction makes most men scramble. They joke, explain, change the subject, or apologize for energy that doesn't need apology. When you stop rescuing awkward moments, you draw a boundary around social discomfort. You're saying, without words, this space doesn't scare me. Awkwardness is tension without meaning yet. When you let it sit, it turns into chemistry. Her mind starts filling the gap. She becomes aware of her body, of your presence, of the moment. If you rush to relieve that tension, you collapse it into normalcy. By not rescuing it, you keep polarity alive. This isn't being rude, it's being unafraid of silence. And women read that as composure, a trait linked to dominance in evolutionary psychology, because calm in uncertainty implies survival competence. 6. You keep a private standard for how you're spoken to. Most men either tolerate everything or confront everything. The attractive boundary is quieter. You don't allow disrespect, but you don't dramatize it either. If she uses a tone you don't like, you don't lecture her about respect. You change your engagement level. Your voice stays calm, but your attention withdraws slightly. This creates a behavioral feedback loop without conflict. She feels the shift before she understands it. Psychologically, humans adjust faster to changes in reward than to verbal correction. Your boundary is not a rule, it's an atmosphere. Over time, she speaks differently to you because your presence trains her nervous system to associate certain tones with closeness and others with distance. That's influence without argument. 5. You separate connection from reassurance. Connection is shared presence. Reassurance is emotional cushioning. Most men confuse the two. They think closeness requires constant affirmation. It's okay, don't worry, I like you, we're good. When you stop merging connection with reassurance, intimacy deepens. You can sit close without explaining what it means. You can look at her without clarifying your feelings. This creates psychological spaciousness. Her brain doesn't get spoon-fed certainty, so it starts leaning forward. Desire grows in uncertainty, not in emotional padding. The boundary is that you don't use reassurance as a social lubricant. You let connection exist on its own. Women experience this as emotional maturity because you're not trying to manage the narrative of the interaction. 4. You end interactions while her interest is still rising. Most men end conversations when energy drops. The rarer move is to leave while energy is climbing. Not abruptly, not dramatically, but decisively. "I've got to go," said at the peak of engagement, creates an open loop. Her brain keeps running the interaction after you're gone. This is called incomplete processing. The mind seeks closure. When you always stay until the moment is dry, you train her to associate you with depletion. When you leave on an upward curve, you train her to associate you with momentum. The boundary is temporal. You decide when access ends, based on energy, not availability. This is not manipulation. It's self-respect expressed through timing. And timing is one of the strongest erotic signals because it implies you have a life rhythm that doesn't orbit her. This part is about recognizing the psychological line you're setting. How you hold it without killing tension is what keeps interest moving. And that's in the members layer in the pinned comment. 3. You don't allow instant familiarity. Familiarity feels good, but too fast it removes polarity. When she jumps into inside jokes, personal disclosures, or casual physicality early, you don't punish it, you pace it. You respond warmly, but don't match speed. This creates asymmetry in intimacy. Asymmetry builds attraction because it makes her invest emotionally before she feels fully secure. The boundary here is tempo. You control how quickly the relationship becomes emotionally casual. Psychologically, this keeps the interaction in the realm of courtship instead of friendship. She doesn't get to collapse the frame into comfort right away. And because you're not rejecting her, just slowing the pace, she experiences it as depth rather than distance. 2. You don't reward testing with explanations. Tests come as sarcasm, challenges, or small provocations. You're probably like all the other guys. You seem too confident. I bet you say that to everyone. Most men answer these with logic or reassurance. That rewards the test with attention and justification. The more attractive boundary is non-reactivity. You respond playfully or neutrally without explaining yourself. You might smile and say nothing, or say, maybe, and continue what you were doing. This communicates that your identity isn't up for trial. From a psychological angle, this shows internal validation. Humans are drawn to people who don't need external approval because it implies resource independence. Her nervous system relaxes around that because it senses you won't collapse under social pressure. 1. You make your attention conditional on mutual composure. This is the deepest boundary of all. Your attention is warm, but it's not unconditional. If she's chaotic, rude, or emotionally scattered, you don't chase her state. You stay composed and slightly unavailable until the interaction stabilizes. This trains the emotional climate. She learns that closeness with you exists in calm, not drama. This isn't control. It's environmental shaping. Your nervous system becomes the reference point. Over time, she regulates herself more when she's around you, because that's how she gets access to you. Psychologically, this flips the usual dynamic. Instead of you adapting to her mood, she adapts to the emotional field you set. And that's what makes a man feel like a leader rather than a follower in romantic space. Understanding these boundaries isn't about controlling attraction. It's about recognizing how psychological space shapes desire before anything physical ever happens. When you stop overgiving access to your emotions, your time, and your reactions, something shifts in how a woman relates to you. She doesn't just feel drawn, she starts adjusting herself around you. And that's usually when something new appears. She begins opening up, not flirting, not teasing, talking, sharing stress, venting about people in her life, mentioning things she normally wouldn't. Most men assume that means they've been placed in the friend zone. But psychologically, that moment means something very different. Because when a woman shares her problems with you, it signals a specific type of emotional positioning that often comes before attraction deepens. The next video explains exactly what that behavior means, why it happens, and what it reveals about how she's starting to see you.